Good morning. This is Gaming Perspectives with
Saul
and Jolene. And today we're talking about rules you need to know to run a game.
Yep.
I read that upside down. Thank you very much. Now, I assume that you mean a game you haven't played before.
Ooh. You mean run before?
There you go. Run
That's
before.
a GM. We're talking about a GM, right? So when you run a game, RPG, you want to know as much as you can that's needed to run the game, right? So this is a post from Reddit. This person was asking, what rules do they have to memorize and what rules could they later on just not worry about and they can look it up during the game?
I'll tell you right now that if you choose one to not memorize or that you think you won't need, that's the one that's going to come up.
I thought about that too, but I decided to go to the Wayback Machine.
Oh my gosh, the Wayback Machine.
Yeah, I know. I've been going back there a lot. But I remember when we used to play original D&D, but mainly when we played D&D, when we had the hardback books.
And you mean by that, you mean AD&D or D&D 3rd edition?
AD&D.
Okay.
Yeah, the 30, no, nah. AD&D. So we're playing AD&D, and people complained that the rules were complex and this and that, but I don't remember it being that complex. I don't remember me thinking it was complex because people told me how to play. You know, at least they explained the rules, and that's just the way we played. There wasn't like, well, you didn't get that rule right, or this or that. It seemed like with the GM said something, that's just the way it was.
Now, is this Felipe being the GM or is this other people also?
Felipe, I think another person that ran games was Mark.
Mm-hmm.
He was another older guy. He's the same age as my brother Victor, so he's a little bit older than Felipe.
Mm-hmm.
And Felipe is like 5 years older than me. So I started playing when I was 11. So he was 15, and then so on and so on until he left for college. So that's just the way we played. We just played because we knew how to play. Now, I don't know if it's not a curse. What is that? Because the young people know everything, right? You don't question yourself. You just know, oh, I know everything. So there's no reason to, hey, hold on. Did you get that wrong or did I get that wrong and have to look it up? Because I don't remember us looking in the AD&D manuals that often.
I'm going to tell you that I've played with Felipe and I doubt he would have let you at the table.
That's true. We were not allowed to look at the book.
Right.
At least the GM's book. I mean, I think I said that at one point that I hadn't really read the GM's book because the DMG, the Dungeon Master's Guide, AD&D, because he said you can't look in the book. And we couldn't look, though I did look at it, was the Monster Manual. Because I'm like, man, this is pretty cool. Because after a while, I started running games myself. So I started looking at the
Monster Manual,
but not the DMG because I already knew how to play. And the other day, I think
wait. So you knew how to play is totally how Felipe told you how to play.
With a little bit of Mark also.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think I might have played with some other people here and there, but they were principally the people that I was a player in their games.
So I think the difference between what you're talking about, you going from being a player to a GM, would be like if it's a game that you've never played, right? You just got it and you don't know the rules or you haven't, and you don't even know the system, right?
Right.
And then also there's a lot of people today who have watched like Critical Role and decide, oh, I want to do that with my friends.
Right.
The only thing they're learning from is watching an actual play.
You're right. And I think that might be, I'm not saying not bad, but the expectation of that's the way most people play is not neither good or bad. But I mean, because if you want to play the way you see on Critical Role, right? And I think you can have fun in that sense where you're really in character, you really get into your character, you use voices, you have personality traits and all that. That is pretty cool. And if you can play that way, it really does
immerse you.
Yeah, it does immerse you in the game. But I think the way I grew up playing, that's not the way we played. We just were like, and I remember somebody in my past that it wasn't a joke. It was kind of like a slight. She goes, well, you guys don't role play anyway. I'm like, I took it as an affront, but then I look back at it now. I'm like, yeah, I guess we don't really role play. We just we play a tactical role playing game, fighting, and that was the as much as we got into it. We didn't explore our characters' feelings and motivations. Right? If the GM puts something in front of us, okay, that's what we got to do. We don't have to have.
You were goal oriented. Mission success.
So I think that is where I'm coming from. And so when people say, well, what rules do you need to know and what rules can you look up in the manual? I'm like, I don't remember ever looking up books in the manual when I was younger.
I remember when you were playing 3rd edition, when you were running it.
Yes.
I remember in Selena's in Felipe's house.
I remember. I know what you're going to say.
Augustine. Was Augustine? I don't even know if Augustine was born yet.
Yeah, he had to be, because that's when we started playing afterwards.
Okay.
No. We started playing in 2001.
Yeah,
right.
He wasn't born until 2003.
Yes.
Because Ian was born, but Augustine wasn't.
Yes, you're right.
And I remember I was standing at the counter. You guys were all around the table. You were running the game for like 7 people.
It was a lot.
And
actually, you were in the kitchen, right?
I was in the kitchen at the counter, and I was standing there listening and laughing. And I don't remember what it was, but Chris goes, "That's not the way that monster works."
I remember what monster it was.
I don't remember what monster it was, but I just remember that he had such a look on his face, like you're wrong, and he pulled out the book. I think it must have been the monster manual.
Yes,
because you're like, well, this is the way the monster works today, or
no. I told him because I was very, what is it? I wanted to run a good game, and for that, even back then, even though I may or may not have been running a good game, I wanted to run a good game, and I didn't want to get things wrong. So I read the monster manual.
Right.
And and I still remember what it was. It was, oh my God, it was Ogre Magi. Now the Ogre Magi, there is 3rd edition, so
it's not the same in 5th edition. It's not the same
anymore.
Probably called something else.
So the Ogre Magi has a creature ability that he can do at any time without having to take a action, right? The whole idea
it's a free action, right?
It's like inherent action, right? They don't have to do something. I forget what the power was, but they get to do it. And then he goes, I don't think they get to do that on that round because they already did a move action and this and that. And I go, no. I go, it's an inherent creature action or something like that. And he goes, are you sure? I go, yes. I go, I read it. I'm sure. And he goes, well, I don't know about that. And he looked it up right then and there, and it irked the hell out of me because it wasn't like, I'm not sure, I didn't read it. I was like, not like I did with the Banshee, which I did much later.
Right.
But I was very sure because I remember reading it, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I thought, wow, that really can be a pain in the arse for players when this guy can throw these.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was.
It's like a extra action.
Extra action. Like, I think it was throwing a spell like ability. That's what it was. Wasn't a spell, because that's what he said it was. I go, no, it's a spell like ability that he has. And then he goes, well, I'm not sure about that. I'm like, I'm telling you, I told him like twice. I read it. I just read it right before the game started, and he has to look it up. And then he goes, oh, you're right. I go, I don't need you to tell me I'm right or you.
Well, but that when you're talking about knowing the rules, right?
Right.
So there's always going to be people at the table who may know more than you do.
Unfortunately, yes.
No matter who you are, I use this to my advantage. And if they tell me that's not the way it is, I go, oh, feel free to look it up and let me know, right? Because I don't have a problem with that. Because usually I like the most recent adventure I ran, I actually had all of the monsters, if you want to call them that, all of the non-player characters.
NPCs, yes.
I had them open on my screen.
Sheets, yes.
So I knew exactly what they did. So that kind of negates the problem.
Right.
Because if someone questioned me, I either copied and pasted it into the into the screen so they could see
it. So they could see it.
Just so they know. We're
playing online.
Yeah.
So another thing about when you're a kid is that other than you know everything, and this starts, I don't know what age, but definitely by the time you're a teenager, you basically know everything.
It's about the time you're 12, I think, is when it starts.
13. Let's just say the teens. Another thing is that as a kid or as a young person, you have a ton of time, even though you don't believe it. Trust me, to you people who are young, being an adult takes a lot of time. I hate to tell you, right? So
technically, it's the same amount of time.
No, and then time is faster when you're older. So there's that going against you. But they got more time to read stuff, right? As a kid. So let's say when I was a kid, I'm probably read the Player's Handbook over and over again. I don't remember doing that, but I remember knowing where stuff was in the book. And it kind of reminded me of Augustine, right? When Augustine was little, like 7, 8, and 9, he wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons. And we were playing
Pathfinder.
Actually, we were playing Pathfinder by that time, and around 2010, right? Because he was 7, 8, or 9, yeah. And I basically told him, "Look, you got to be able to read, and you got to be able to read this book and understand the rules." And so, is that young?
I think they were 7, Augustine and Alan.
Yeah, they were pretty small.
Yeah, they were like in 2nd grade, maybe 1st grade, 2nd grade.
Yeah,
and I remember them. I remember Thanksgiving, Christmas, every Saturday that they were here. Him and Alan sitting on the couch with the player's manual
with
open,
huge core book.
Yeah,
Pathfinder.
for Pathfinder, and I just remember them going and reading it to each other, and then they get to a word that they don't know, and they go, "What does this word mean?" And I don't know how many words I answered. What does it mean? Yeah.
There were literally 2 little boys sitting next to each other on the couch with this massive tome in front of them, and they were reading the rules. And then exactly that, when they came a word that they didn't understand, they would ask, or we would tell them to look it up or something in a real dictionary, because Google wasn't around then, really. And maybe it was, I don't know. Anyway, it might have been, but it wasn't as, I don't know, as integrated into our life like it is now. So again, you have time, you have this idea that you know everything. And I don't remember too many times when people said, well, I don't know the rule of that or this and that, and they would look it up in the rule book. I remember every once in a while when we came across a situation that we hardly ever came across, we'd go, well, I'm not sure about that. And so we looked something up. But for the most part, it was like, just let it go. We don't care. We're playing. Just keep playing. And it wasn't until maybe, a good thing about when my son was learning Pathfinder and his friend is that they learned the rules.
Yeah.
And they were like, they were a sponge, right? They learned the rules. And I remember running the game later, where I was just kind of, for me, I didn't really read the Pathfinder book. I was going mainly by 3rd edition rules and 3.5 because I had bought those editions and I had read those books. And I go, well, this is basically like 3rd edition 3.5, so it really is. And we even used to call it 3.75, right, as a joke, instead of Pathfinder, because the rules are so similar. Anyway, so I am running this game, and they know the rules, right? They know their rules. I don't have to worry about them asking about it if their character could do this. They knew what feats and stuff did and how they did it and when to do it. So it was really easy to run the game for them, even when they're starting out. And then their older brother was a brain himself, and so he goes, "Oh yeah, I want to play." And then their dad is a brain. Most of the time has a brain. And so it was real easy to run that game with me not having to know every single rule in the book.
No, because they would, if you didn't believe them when they told you what the rule was, which you always did, or if you wanted to know why, they would just show it to you in the book really quick because they knew exactly where it was.
Right. And a lot of times I just went by their knowledge because I knew they had written rules, and I'm like, I'm not going to question them because I know you guys know it. I mean, it was kind of silly for me to go, well, show me the rule. like Chris did to me. Well, I didn't show him the rule. He looked it up himself. So there is that, to me, in my mindset, there's that going on with reading the rules and knowing the rules. But starting with the idea that there's some rules that you can memorize and others that you can use, you can not ignore, but look them up later at the game table. And to me, I hate books being opened at the game table, like cracked open. And we kind of fell into that with the last game, 5th edition, because people don't know their character very well. They don't know the spells very well. So they look them up and then they read the spell and boom, that's how it works, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's a very technical sort of how things, especially spells, how they go off, how long does it take, what are the boundaries of what the spell can do, and all that.
Well, and there's a lot of different spells. When I was playing a sorceress, I tried to know what
Right.
spells I was going to use and what they did. I had them down on a piece of paper so
Right.
that. And the other thing is, I always try to be ready for when it's my turn,
Right.
because there's an initiative tracker. There's someone that you know who you're going to go after. So I always tried to be prepared, because it's always, I don't want to say frustrating, but it's always a little bit frustrating for me when the GM says, "What are you going to do?" and the player is like, "Well, I need to look at my spells and decide which one I want to use." And I'm like,
or
so
like,
if you're
first they go, "Oh, it's my turn. What's going on?" No.
so if you're a magic user, you should have stuff down. And I found this to be most important when we were playing Shadowrun.
This is what I'm saying is, for the most part, my time running the game, we hardly ever cracked the book open
Right.
at the table. We just and if I got something wrong, they wouldn't look it up to make sure. They just accepted my ultimate decision of the GM power.
And they can look it up later, right?
And tell me,
then
yeah, it's
talk to you
wrong.
about it. Yeah.
But that hardly ever happened, all right? We were just having fun. So I think there's a little bit of more of a, I don't know, a technical aspect of running the game these days.
I don't think it's only a technical aspect. I think it is, a lot of people feel that the rules as written make the game fair to everybody.
Yeah.
And I can understand that point of view, especially some people feel like maybe the GM is a little adversarial. Maybe the GM is favoring other people at the table.
Yes.
He doesn't like the character that I'm playing.
Right.
Different kinds of things like that. So I can understand. And those people, you want to accommodate them in their idea of to make them feel like it's fair to everybody.
Right. No, I totally agree. I totally agree with the idea that I think adversarial GMs are kind of
they're
faded
away,
out,
yeah.
But definitely favoritism. I mean, because it's kind of hard not to favor somebody. Even you talked about favoritism during the game that you played in, and I didn't see it, but I wasn't really paying attention. I think I was kind of falling asleep, like you said. But it does happen that people show favoritism, and it doesn't have to be your girlfriend or your wife or something like that. It could be just somebody that you know over a stranger.
Yeah.
And then, because you know that person.
Especially if you play with them a lot. You're used to them giving you ideas.
Right. Exactly.
But I didn't have any problem, because I just went around it. No problem.
It wasn't until Shadowrun 5th edition, funny that you mentioned it, that I said, okay, we got to have to look this stuff up, because I have no clue how it works. And I've told everybody on this podcast before. We talked about Shadowrun. We talked about how much we love the game, how much, the setting, the genre, everything, and the rules. Well, we'll get through them to get to the fun, right? And
which to you, and I know you've read the rules.
Try to, and
I've read the rules, and I finally gave up on some of the rules and just let the 3 boys read the rules and tell me what I needed to do. Also, there's something on YouTube with little stick figures that taught me how to be a sorceress or a magician or whatever you want to call it, a magic user in Shadowrun. And there's also, there are resources to be able to learn it. And like for every game, for me as a player, I want to know what my characters can do.
Right.
And I don't want to be holding up the game. Yeah. I don't want to be confused about how I can do stuff. So a lot of times I'll ask, like, can I do this? Is it possible for me to do this?
Right. But even our son and his friends, who were very good at knowing the rules, who had, just torn apart the book, not torn apart, but looked through the rule book over and over again and figured everything out. Every once in a while, they would still have to look at the rule book, because it was so
minutia.
Yes, it was very, and it was, and I'm like, okay, I can't tell him not to look at the book because I have no clue as to how this is going to be officiated. Not even know. Like I could, what is it?
Fudge.
Fudge stuff, but like I don't even know how to fudge this because I don't know how it works. And it's not like I didn't read the rules because I told you I must have read that combat section like 12 times, and after
I read the combat section.
I'm like, what?
I read the combat section around 20 times.
Yes.
And it wasn't until Alan was the one. He goes, okay, this is the way it works. Because there's so many dice, right? These guys have like 30 soak dice, right? So they go, this is how it works. And once he went through the rule for combat at the table with everybody, I was like, oh, I get it. And after that, I haven't played for a while, so I would have to look it up again. But I knew what was good. I knew the way that it worked.
The order of operation. Yeah, kind of like a mathematical.
Yes, just like an algebra problem.
And that's what it was. It was exactly that. Once he did explain, this is what you do to hit. This is how they can avoid the hit. This is if you get hit, you can soak up so much damage. And he just went step by step, which the freaking book is terrible the way it's written, and edited. So that's the way I learned how to play Shadowrun, is by my son and his friends telling me how it worked. And then every system, from magic user to even hacking, is sort of the same thing, but told in a different way.
Exactly.
And I thought, okay.
And it wasn't as easy as that was Alan did it. Like that was like the 17th time we'd played, right? And he goes, because every time they would go through it, this is what you need to do. Yep. And I'd be like, I look like a total idiot because I don't understand how to play this. And I've read it a bunch of times, and so sometimes learning the rules to a game isn't necessarily going to help you be a GM for that game.
No, you're right. You're totally right. A GM's, it requires a little bit of a different type of skills, but I think most people can learn to be a GM, and it just takes a little bit of effort. But going back to the rules, here I am, a lifetime or 40 years of running games, 35 years, whatever it was. And I'm like, okay, we didn't really open the book. And I'm like, okay, let's open the books on Shadowrun 5th edition because I have no clue as to where to keep going or how this is going to be solved. And it wasn't that bad, right? As we got more used to playing, and a lot of it of Shadowrun. And we're not like simpletons, right? We played some pretty complex games. We played Pathfinder, we played
Traveler,
Shadowrun, all these not Shadowrun, but Space Opera. So these are things that we had to figure out, and there was no help, there was no videos and stuff to make you understand the rules. But Shadowrun, I think it's a different horse kind of animal, or whatever. So when we look at the rules and look at the idea of what we needed to run, the problem with Shadowrun, there's all these systems that you need to know so you can run the game, because all those systems are going to come into play during the game. The combat, sure, there's always going to be combat. Oh, magic, that's its own system that you got to figure out. Oh, hacking, that's another system that you got to figure out. And even those have subsystems, right? Magic, there's different kinds of magic systems, right? There's a whiz bang, instant stuff, and then there's the ritual magic that takes days or hours and days to do stuff.
And it also depends on if the sorcerer wants to hurt themselves. I mean, how bad do they want it? So there's all kinds of things. And I think that game is a really good example of rules, right? Because we had so much fun, and the boys had a blast learning the rules.
Yes.
And it made the game for them even more exciting because they got to contribute to how does it work, right? The system. How does the system work?
Right. Well, because we were going to them for the answers as adults. Right. And they were young.
Well, and they're total math heads. So it was like giving them something that made them happy.
So, I think I hit the head on the nail with the whole idea that there was this order of operations that needed to be done to get that. And then there is a ton of weapons, and it's a crazy game. I absolutely love it. They did do a Anarchy 2nd edition 2.0, which is a rules light.
And I hear that some people took the French version and re-put it into English so it made more sense.
Well, that was the original 5th edition.
Oh.
and that's what they did, because it was called Black Book is the publishers, and what they did is once they're translating to French, they edited the heck out of it, and then they published that book, Shadowrun. And what Americans realize is that Black Book is, I don't know how Americans, but English speaking people realize that, those rules are really well put together. And they didn't change a lot of rules, but they edited them and did all kinds of
They
different
put them
things.
together so they flowed better.
It made more sense. And so people were literally Google translating those books and then printing them out. And they said that it was, I don't know, I'm not experiencing that because I haven't done it. But from what I heard, that's what they did. And that's what
And
people did. So
then they
could
kind
play
of
for the
understood the rules better, right?
Yes, and because they were better edited
Yeah.
and they're better written. So that same company, Black Book, has done the same thing for Anarchy. Anarchy was a rules light that came out at the same time as 5th edition. It didn't really become all that popular, but they came out with 6th edition again. Had the same problems that other editions of Shadowrun have: bad editing, bad writing. At least by my reviews, I read. I haven't actually played 6th edition, but this Black Book edition publisher decided to put out Anarchy 2.0, and they're going to be the publishers, and they're publishing the book right now. They went on Kickstarter, and they just came out with the PDF.
The only thing about Shadowrun is that once you do learn how to play it, going to a different set of rules is probably not what you're going to do.
Not what you want to do.
Yeah,
but as a GM, I definitely want to give it a try. We'll see what the boys say, because I always run for them, if 5th edition, even if they want to. So what does all this mean? So I think when we go to this idea that there's some rules that you can remember and have to memorize, and then some rules that you could just maybe look up later. Now, I don't like the idea of looking up rules later on at the table, but there's certain games, even D&D, anything more complicated people are going to ask questions. Is that the rule, or what is the rule in this situation? Because everything has a rule. Now, other games like year zero engine games, there's not going to be a lot of questions. There's not going to be a lot of
tell me what's a year zero engine?
Year zero attribute plus skill.
That's Tales from the Loop.
Tales from the Loop. Okay. That's how many d6s you roll. If you get one 6 on any of the die, you succeed. Now there's a couple, there's different iterations of that depending on what game it is and what mood that you're trying to achieve. But I think Tales from the Loop is the simplest one. There is no panic mechanic or anything like that.
That's usually in a 2d20 system, right?
No, that's in the same game. That's in the same system.
Oh, the same system.
But that's Alien.
Oh.
Which is also uses the same mechanic. Okay. In D6s.
John Carter of Mars is in
2d20 system.
That's a 2D. Okay.
Yeah, we're mixing up 2D system to a single.
I was just thinking that
dice bowl system.
We've been playing a lot of Powered by the Apocalypse games.
Yeah, which is kind of funny.
And Root, Brindlewood Bay.
Right.
And I've gotten because it's 2d6.
2d6.
And if you get a 7 to 10, you succeed.
With a complication.
Or a 7 to 9?
I think so.
If you get a 10 to a 12, you just succeed. And if you get under a 7, you fail. And I finally played enough of those games that I understand what that means now.
Right. It's super
but it
easy.
took a while, right? Because I didn't have to roll d20s and things.
Yeah, it seems kind of odd.
I don't know. We played Traveler before, and those 2 dice, and never worked for me.
So what I would say is, if you want something that you absolutely need at the table, and hopefully the rules aren't like Shadowrun, where there's different systems depending on what you're doing. If there is a single game mechanic system like Year Zero Engine, where you add the skill plus the attribute,
and
that's how many
dice pull.
Yeah, that's how many dice you get to throw, and all you need is a 6 to succeed. Easy.
I'm just going to tell you it's not that easy to get that 6.
Well, that's
anyway.
I mean, it's a simple
the mechanic
concept.
Is easy.
The simple concept to understand.
And a 2d6 system is easy because you're just rolling 2d6, right? And
you're trying to get a certain number.
A certain number, yeah.
And then there's 2d20. There's it's a little bit more complicated, a little bit more crunchy. And so what I'm saying is that when you have a system that's easy, and that's the system, that is the thing you do for everything. If you're trying to use a skill, if you're trying to do something physical, you stick to that mechanic. That's very simple. I guess D&D is sort of simple because you just roll a D20 almost in any situation.
Yeah, and then your hit dice are the ones that are different, the different polyhedrals, right?
Right. The damage dice and
Yeah.
stuff, right? So that's what you got to learn. One, is this game kind of simple? And if it is, then learn
The
the
system, the mechanic.
base mechanic, right? The thing that makes everything run. Now, a lot more games are basically that way now. They don't have all these different. They try not to, as far as I can see, have all these different things that. Oh, if you're trying to do social deduction, then you take some integer from some number that's on your sheet and divide it by 13, and then you got to roll a number, and then you multiply that number by there's these equations that have to be done. No, most games have become a single game mechanic, and it powers everything that you do in the game. Now, some people say, well, it's not realistic or this or that. No, they're trying to make it as simple as they can, and then the rest is just setting material, and maybe you have different rules. Like even Year Zero engine, they changed it a little bit, right? Because if you play Tales from the Loop and you play Alien, they still have that same skill and attribute. That's how many add them together. That's how many D6 you roll, and all you need is a 6 to succeed. But they also throw in this idea that if you
to push it,
you could push the roll, right, and it causes stress. And
can't you do that in Tales from the Loop?
You do not get a stress die.
No, you don't get a stress die.
There's no stress die. There's no stress.
But you can push it. But you push it. You take a condition
if you fail.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's but that is kind of like the core mechanic. But they keep every iteration. Like Blade Runner, they decided to do a step die instead of just D6s. You get a D6, a D8, a D10, or D12, and I think what is it? Twilight 2000, the new one by Free League, they do the same thing. There's a step die mechanic. So the idea that it's just attribute plus skill that gives you how many 6-sided dice. No, now it's just you add your skill and your attribute, and they may be different dice, and you're trying to get a different a target number. Whew, sorry, gotta breathe. So I think that is probably the best thing you can do is figure out what the base mechanic is, and they'll tell you this is the base mechanic in the rule book. And if they do that, and that the game is structured that way, then it's much easier game to run. And so that's what you got to learn. You got to learn a little bit about other things that
like if there's combat.
Well, yeah, but if the core mechanic is combat is the same,
but it might be like sequences might be different. Like like there might be
the initiative system.
Different kinds of things.
Right. So I think those things are stuff that you have to memorize. And I think there's other rules that, like in combat, the initiative, you have to figure out who's going to
go first,
right? And you got to figure out if there's a magic system. How does that magic system work? And it could be just the same as the skill, right? Depending on the game. So I think that's what you got to learn is the base mechanic. You got to learn anything that affects the base mechanic, whether it's you add dice, subtract dice, you add modifiers. Is it a advantage, disadvantage system? I think a lot of games are going that way where people really like that idea, and they are including it in a lot of games. Even Shadowrun Anarchy 2.0 has an advantage and disadvantage idea or system in place, and then that uses dice pools of 6-sided dice. So what it is if you're rolling so in the core mechanic, you got a bunch of dice, you need a 5 or 6 to succeed. With disadvantage, you need a 6 to succeed, and if you have advantage, is a 4, 5, and 6 to succeed.
Wow.
So that really changes the
dynamic of the dice,
right?
Yeah.
Oh, for a success, not to succeed. It's because you need so many successes.
Right.
You need 5 successes to hit this guy, and instead of just like 1 6 for the Year Zero engine. So once you got that down, I think everything else is kind of stuff that you can wait to, if it comes up, then you can crack open a book if that's the way it is. I rather just keep the game flowing, and I tell people that, and even in games I run at conventions, I will tell them, I will say at the beginning, look, I'm trying to run a game in a certain amount of time, and I want it to flow as fast as not fast, but as good as I can. I don't like stopping the game to look at a rule book. For the most part, I'm in your corner, right? I'm on the side of the players and want them to succeed. So trying to eliminate that book from hitting the table and stopping that flow, I guess some people call it, is something that I want to try to diminish.
Right. I believe that you do that in a way that I've also heard you tell people, if you want to look it up, go ahead, but we're going to move on now. We can, if we need to go have a rewind or whatever, we can do that. That way
Right.
they can do whatever they need to do and you can keep going with
Right.
the game.
And a lot of times it just doesn't matter, right? Unless it's hardly ever.
But every once in a while you get a person who's like,
Yes.
I need to know that we're doing this the right way.
Right. And a lot of times I will tell them too, when I do that, I go, look, we're just going to keep going. And if I got the rule wrong, my fault. We'll fix it next time if we come across it again. Usually I don't rewind back and stuff or retcon it or anything like that, unless it's something big, right?
Right.
And honestly,
the planet blew up. Oh,
I don't.
We'll go
yes,
back a little
I just
bit.
don't run those kind of games where one little thing is going to cause the whole party to be killed, a total party kill, TPK. I just don't run those kind of games. I don't usually put players in those situations. And then if a player does something crazy like, well, I'm not doing so good in this game, I'm just gonna grab a grenade and unplug it and throw it on the ground next to our whole party and blow us all up and kill us. I mean, I'm like, okay, that's not gonna happen, right? I'm just gonna not allow that, even though within the rules, the character should be able to do that, right? But no, you're not gonna kill somebody else. Everybody's fun because you're upset about bad dice rolling.
Well, and if it's a new game, like we play with a lot of GMs and they like to bring out the new games that they want it to hit the table,
yes,
as my husband says. And so a lot of times people will be looking at the rules, right? Because everybody's learning them at the same time. And that makes it, the GMs maybe had one pass at it or two to get ready for the game, but there's always going to be combat things that happened when we first played Liminal.
Yes.
And some other new games that just came out and everybody wanted to play, right? And nobody gets upset about it. They just go, okay, next time this is what we're going to do.
Right.
We'll do it the way that we're supposed to.
Yeah. And so it depends on the game, right? If it's a really complicated game, then you really have to learn a lot more than it would be if it was a simple game. Now, complicated games, the good thing about them is that usually there is a GM screen, right? And that's filled with tables or information that is needed to make it easier to run the game while you're playing. That's why they had those GM screens in the old days. They had to hit tables, they had weapon damage tables and this and that and all things in between. So if you can get one of those or a cheat sheet like that will help you run the game and not have to crack open a book and just have a shorthand to the rules that are most likely to be asked or see at the game table, then that would help immensely, and you won't have to memorize a whole bunch. But I would opt to just try to run as if you're playing a new game, a first time playing or running a game. Run a easier game, a rules lighter game, and then start from there, and then you can pack on the rules as you go, or go into some games that are much more complicated.
And I think the most important thing to remember is that, especially if you're a first-time GM or new to GMing, that the great GM that you just played with or that you went to a convention and, man, that guy was great. He's probably been doing it for 30 years. It's probably not his first game that he's running.
Right.
So as you go, you're going to learn different things, whether it's the mechanics of different games or the way to run the table, right?
Correct.
So,
and that'll take some time to learn.
Yeah. So those are the things that don't happen overnight.
And not all tables are the same.
Right.
So what work in one table may not work in another, just because you have different set of players, or even if you got the same players but a different group of them, right? You have all your friends at this table in this game, or just 3 or half of them in another game, that game is going to run differently.
And if it doesn't work out at first, just do it again. Ask the people that you're playing with, can you either help me, or what went wrong, or find somebody to talk to about it. It's all good. So,
and just run it again. Run it for a different group of people.
So there you go. This is Gaming Perspectives with
Saul
and Jolene.
And you have a good day.